Hi, my name is Helen. And yes, I am a woman. Welcome to my podcast, a podcast with scary stories I have written. But I have chosen to record it with an AI voice, and if you ever heard mine, you know why. Are you ready? I hope you locked your doors, checked under your bed, and turned the lights off. Because now it's time for frightful fiction. Do you dare to listen? Emmy looks at Yolanda, then at Marty. So it wasn't him who was whistling, and it seems unlikely there's a third party involved. So they're probably not responsible for the dead animal they found on the trail or the whistling. Emmy reluctantly lets go of her suspicions toward them. But who was whistling? Or what was whistling? Is that the right question? What, instead of who? Her mind races, and she feels a slight nausea. We need to cleanse ourselves now. I'm not sure if the whistling is from your mother, Yolanda said, and she looks scared. I'm starting to doubt it's her too, Dennis said, head lowered and barely audible over the sounds of nature and the crackling fire. Emmy looks at him, her naive younger brother nervously moves his lips back and forth. Mom would never whistle at us, when she sees us all so upset and scared about it, Dennis added, and with more power behind his words this time. That's true. Emmy may have mixed feelings about her deceased mother, but she would never knowingly spread fear if she even exists somewhere on the other side and is able to make contact. Emmy sighs. She hates not knowing what's going on. Where exactly were you when you heard the first whistle? Yolanda asked, staring at Emmy. On our way here, Emmy replied, intentionally vague. She doesn't want to admit that she broke the rules. Yes, but where exactly? Yolanda pressed. Dennis looks up and points at Emmy. Oh no, now he's going to tell on her. They were not on the trail. Emmy and Jonathan, when the four of us heard the whistles earlier, and then Emmy sort of whistled back, once, but neither I nor William did. Dennis blurted out. Yolanda stands up, taking a step toward Emmy. You did what? You left the trail. And that's when you heard the whistle for the first time. And you responded to it? Yolanda asked, her voice hard. Yeah, we were looking for mushrooms and I was totally convinced it was Dennis or William whistling. We do that to each other when we want something, and both Jonathan and I heard the whistle, so it wasn't something internal happening only to me, so I took it as proof that when others also hear it, it's a living person actually making the sound and not a ghost. Emmy explained, trying to remain calm. Oh, my holy goddess, what have you done, Emmy? You responded to someone from the other side when you were outside the protection of the trail. We need to perform the cleansing ritual quickly, to protect ourselves. To protect you, don't you realize how dangerous this is? I warned you all about this, Yolanda said, her tone full of urgency. Everyone stares at Emmy. She feels ashamed, what a mess it turned out to be. Once again. Yes, I agree we should hurry this along. We go around the group and share a scary memory so we can cleanse the evil away, Marijuana Marty said. Both he and Yolanda distribute small bundles of dry grass, or whatever it is. Emmy thinks it's called incense. Sandra looks at Emmy, with perhaps a hint of anger in her gaze. Her eyes slightly narrowed, her forehead somewhat wrinkled, her head tilted away from Emmy and her nose tense. So the look isn't just angry, it has a touch of disdain toward Emmy. I take this experience seriously, unlike some of you. We actually made contact with our beloved deceased son. If I am to believe that, which I know happened, it was my son's soul I connected with. Therefore, I must also accept that there are evil forces. You can't pick and choose what to believe, either you accept the whole package, or you believe in nothing at all. We connected with our son earlier, so I can start the process, Sandra said. No one looks at her, except Yolanda with her soft kindergarten teacher look. Everyone else has bowed heads. Exactly, those were wise words. And please go ahead, light your incense and tell your memory. When you're done, throw this stone into the fire, Yolanda said. Marty gives each person in the group a stone. Hold the stone tightly while you tell your scary memory. To manifest the evil into the stone, Yolanda added. Emmy doesn't like her stone. It's an ugly stone, hard and sharp, hard and cold. Jonathan places his stone in his uninjured hand, the one without a bandage. Sandra walks past Emmy and Jonathan and sits down next to her husband Peter. Sandra glares at Emmy, who doesn't meet her burning gaze. Okay, let's get started. I hope everyone in the group will respect the process. I don't have many frightening memories. I have plenty of sad ones, too many, but few that are truly scary. What I'm about to share now is one of the scariest things I've experienced until today. Perhaps it won't be as frightening for all of you, but it kind of is to me, Sandra said. Emmy looks at Jonathan. They sit close together, and she wants to lean her head on his shoulder. She's tired, and everything feels wrong, everything except Jonathan. But she stays put, and all that's wrong. When I was little, we always played in one part of the schoolyard while another part was off limits, so to speak. That part was where the teachers couldn't see us. But one day, my friend and I discovered a shiny coin in the grass by that off-limits area. We quickly grabbed it, but not without noticing there was another one further away, Sandra said. She takes a deep breath and continues. The next day, there was another coin in the same place as the day before, and when we picked it up, we saw there were more, leading away from the schoolyard. My friend and I picked them all up. In total, we had 27 coins, Sandra said and sits quiet for a moment. The day after that, there was a coin in the same spot, and another one further and further away from the schoolyard, toward a house with a large bush. Sandra said. Oh my God, Emmy thinks, it must have been someone who wanted to lure the kids away from the school, toward the protection of the bushes. I could buy a lot of candy with my newfound money, and my older sister questioned me about where I got the money from, and when I told her, she turned pale and went and told our mom, who called the principal. It turned out the reason we weren't allowed to play there was because the man who lived in that house was a pedophile, and we had followed the money trail almost to his bushes. If we had returned the next day, as we had planned to do, we would have reached his bushes. And I feel sick every time I think about it, that he was probably standing there waiting for us, hidden in the dense bushes, Sandra said. Emmy's stomach turns. There's nothing she hates as much as she hates pedophiles. May they all die and burn in hell for eternity, preferably longer. Sandra throws her stone into the fire. Thank you, Sandra. What a relief it ended well. It could have gone very wrong. Thank you for letting us share this memory, and for allowing us to join you on your cleansing journey. We all pray that the Holy Goddess grants us peace and purification from any darkness your memory may have carried. With fire we cleanse ourselves. With fire we protect ourselves. With fire we purify ourselves, Yolanda said. Emmy wonders who's up next, and which memory will she use to cleanse herself. Should she choose the one about the bus, or the one about the hospital, or maybe the one about the school? Emmy has many scary memories to choose from. I want to share a memory, Yolanda said. When I was a teenager, I was camping with my family. Late one night, my two sisters and I were in the restroom to wash off our makeup and get ready for bed. There were 9 stalls, 6 in a row to the right and 3 in a row to the left, and 3 sinks in a row on the left. Each of us had a sink with a toilet stall behind us. We checked that there was no red indicator, meaning the stalls were vacant, and we quickly glanced to see if there were any feet in the stalls. No one was there. It was empty. Marty puts his hand on Yolanda's leg and pats it back and forth. We sang, gossiped, and had a lot of fun. We took our time. After removing all our makeup and brushing our teeth, we needed to use the toilet. We all backed up to grab a stall each. But the handle on my stall's door wouldn't go down. I looked again in the lower part of the stall. No feet. Then I looked up in the upper part, and there were 2 dark eyes staring at me. I panicked and told my sisters to come out. We all panicked. We talked to the person in every language we knew and asked what he was doing, but he didn't answer. He just stood there in the stall staring at us, Yolanda said. She looked shaken. Marty embraces her. We ran out and got our dad, but the man in the stall was gone when we returned to the restroom. There were dirty shoe prints on the toilet seat, lots of cigarette butts, and beer cans on the floor. He had been standing there for a long time waiting for some lone girl to show up, and I was supposed to go alone that night. It was purely by chance that my sisters came along. They're older than me and didn't need to finish their evening routine as early as I did, and I thanked the universe that I wasn't alone that night, Yolanda said. That could have ended badly, Emmy thinks to herself. Did you report it to the police? Sandra asked. No, but my dad told the camping owner about it, and he had received a lot of similar complaints, so they stationed a guard outside the restroom, Yolanda answered and then repeats her cleansing speech and throws her stone into the fire. Okay, it's my turn, Dennis said. When I was little, my siblings and I were home alone. You probably remember this. Emmy and William, Mom was supposed to go to the store and we were home alone and we sat in William's room, and he was playing video games and we were watching. Then we heard a glass shatter, and William, you went down the stairs first. You went first to protect us, even though you were just a kid too. When we got to the kitchen there was a broken glass, the broken shards neatly laid out in the remains of the glass, and it was one of Mom's favorite glasses, the expensive ones. We double-checked all the windows and the door and everything was closed and locked, so we don't know how it happened, and when Mom came home from the store, we told her about the glass, and she got a bit upset. Because one of the expensive glasses had also broken the night before. Mom took out the plastic box where we kept broken glass, but when she opened it it was empty, so the glass in the kitchen was the glass that broke the night before. It was all very strange, and it must have been some sort of ghost who did it, who made it sound as the glass broke once again, and then put it on the sink. Dennis said, his eyes moving around. Emmy remembers that. It was weird. What happened that day? She can't figure it out, and unfortunately, they'll never get an answer to what actually happened. Dennis throws his stone into the fire. William nods to his little brother. Yeah, I remember that. It was actually scary, William said. He stands up and paces back and forth. I don't have much scary to share. So I'll share Dennis' memory. It was very unsettling to me as well. William said. It's okay, you can share a memory in this process. As long as you throw your stone too, so it can burn, Yolanda said and looks at him. William complies. His stone lands in the middle of the fire. Nature's sounds take over for a moment. Peter breaks the silence. He clears his throat and takes a deep breath. I almost drowned once, it was scary. I fell asleep in the bathtub when I was little. I had a fever, and my mom left me to take a phone call. And the fever hit fast and hard and I got very tired and drifted off. I woke up with the terrible feeling of water in my lungs, but I couldn't get out of the bathtub. Something was holding me down, at least that's how it felt. Then Mom came and pulled me out of the bathtub. She didn't believe me. She said it was the fever making me feel like something was holding me down. But it wasn't just the feeling of something holding me down. I saw it, a figure, an inhumanly shaped figure. It smiled at me while it tried to drown me, Peter said, his words filled with fear, trembling at the end. Drowning sounds like a terrible way to die. Emmy has always hated being on open waters. It must have been traumatizing for him as a child to have a fever and almost drown as a result. Emmy feels sorry for him. And what kind of mother leaves her sick child alone in a bathtub? Peter tosses the stone into the fire. That sounds awful, Dennis said, looking at Peter. Yolanda nods to Marty, the group's own druggie. Now it's apparently his turn. When I was a child, my grandma was in the hospital, and my mom and I were there almost every day. I found it incredibly boring and stifling. The room held 6 patients, including my grandma. Then one day, a man entered, a man in a fancy suit. I was immediately scared of him. I can't quite explain it, but he looked evil. His pallor and demeanor were unsettling. Though human, he seemed off, as if pretending to be one but not quite succeeding. Strangely, no one else seemed to react to his presence. He walked toward a bed in the far corner of the room, next to my grandma. The man stopped at the gentleman lying there, gently touching the man's chest. Instantly, all the machines started beeping, and the medical staff rushed in. The man then calmly walked out of the room, and the gentleman in the bed passed away right there. Marty recounted, his voice tinged with the memory's unsettling clarity. That sounds like either murder, a coincidence, or a child's wild imagination, Emmy thinks. She looks at Marty. He's as pale as a sheet. When I asked my mom about the man in the suit, she hadn't seen him. A few days later, we were back at the hospital, and the man returned. This time, he stopped at a bed near the room's entrance. And just like before, he placed his hand on the lady lying there, and all the machines started beeping once again, as she passed away. A few days after that, the man came back again. This time he approached my grandma's bed. That's when I couldn't take it anymore. I yelled out and grabbed the man's wrist. He stared at me with an empty gaze, chilling me to the core. He smiled, a weird and evil smile. Then, without a word, he left the room. My grandma didn't die that day. But it was terrifying. No one else claimed to have seen the man except for me, Marty said. Wow, Marty, you saved your grandma. That's heroic, and you were just a child. How very brave of you, Dennis said, and Yolanda nods along. Marty throws his stone into the fire. What the hell, is he claiming to have seen the Grim Reaper or something? Emmy wonders, her mind racing. The man's description, though, brings to mind something like uncanny valley, that unsettling feeling when something looks almost human but not quite. It's a concept that taps into deep-seated fears, like the way a robot can appear eerily human yet disturbingly off. This near-human appearance can send chills down anyone's spine, triggering a primal sense of unease. Maybe the man just looked weird and that scared Marty. Benny raises his hand, and Yolanda nods, signaling that it's his turn to speak. I dreamed that I died. It was either yesterday or maybe last week. There was this big, scary monster chasing me, wanting to kill me. The monster finally caught me and started to eat me. That's when I decided to wake up because that's what I always do when I'm having a nightmare. I forced myself to wake up. Benny said, and tosses his stone into the fire. That's fantastic. What a great idea. I'm going to try that next time I have a bad dream. Yolanda replied. Benny smiles and puts his headphones on and starts listening to something on his phone, clearly preferring it over the group's conversation. Emmy looks at the group. Now it's just her and Jonathan left. She contemplates the idea of simply getting up and walking away. But no, they can't just leave. It wouldn't be fair to the others. She wonders who will go first, Jonathan or herself. When I lived in my first apartment, I was constantly annoyed by the neighbor above me. Jonathan begins, breaking the silence. They made noise at all hours, loud thuds and footsteps echoing in the middle of the night. This went on for weeks. I knocked at the door a few times, but no one ever answered. I got so mad that I eventually called the landlord to complain. That's when the landlord told me that the apartment above mine was vacant, waiting to be renovated. He said, his voice filled with unease. He throws his stone into the fire. It almost lands outside the fire's glow. That sounds like it could be a homeless person who needed shelter and had found a way into the empty apartment, Sandra said, and Jonathan shrugs his shoulders at her, smiling. Now it's Emmy's turn. She takes a deep breath, deciding which story to tell. Finally, she settles on the one about the apartment. I was visiting my friend, and when I was leaving, I encountered an old lady in the stairwell. She wanted me to come home with her, saying she needed help with her TV. Her front door was wide open, and she was so small and frail. But something about it felt off. I tried to explain that I wasn't very good with technology, but she practically dragged me into her apartment. Emmy said, her voice trembling slightly. As soon as we were inside, I pulled out my phone and called my friend. I told him I was in his neighbor's apartment, and she needed help with her TV. Suddenly, the lady changed her tune, saying she didn't need any help after all. But my friend insisted, taking the elevator down and coming into the apartment himself. The TV was already on, so it was working perfectly fine. Now, the lady started acting confused, saying we have to leave. While my friend and the lady were talking, I glanced into a hallway in her apartment. There was a man standing behind a door, just staring at us. He had this icy glare that sent chills down my spine. He didn't move, he didn't say a word, he just stood there, staring. And after a while he smiled and pointed at me. I grabbed my friend and we left as quickly as we could. To this day, I feel sick when I think about it. Why did the lady ask for help with a TV that was already on? And who was that man, just standing there, staring like that? Emmy looks down, her voice trailing off. The memory clearly still haunts her. Emmy tosses her stone. She's surprised she chose that memory. It's the least scary one she's experienced. The bus, the hospital, and the school all carry much scarier memories, but those are for another time. What if the old lady was in trouble and needed your help? Maybe you shouldn't have left her, Sandra said. Back at my friend's place, we couldn't stop talking about what had just happened. I recounted every detail of what I saw, the old lady's sudden change of demeanor, and the man with the icy stare. We were both uneasy, but we felt we needed to make sure she was okay. So, we decided to go back and check on her. We knocked at her door, and when she opened it, I made some small talk and eventually asked her if she had any visitors. She smiled and said, "Yes, you see, my grandson is here. He easily gets bored, and since he loves having beautiful women around, it's always good to have one or two over for him to play with." Her words felt very disturbing, but before we could ask anything more, she shut the door with a huge smile. After that, my friend kept an eye out for anything unusual, but everything seemed normal. The old lady always smiled and waved whenever they met, as if nothing weird had ever happened. But the memory of that night stayed with us, the strange feeling that something wasn't quite right never fully leaving our minds. I see. That sounds creepy, to say the least. Sandra said. The wind rustles through the trees, creating a symphony of soft rustling and creaks. Yolanda looks at the group, the eerie sounds amplifying the tension in the air. Now it is time we ask the universe's good forces to cleanse what has once hurt us. We ask the holy goddess's eternal fire to purify us with its power. All pain shall disappear into nothingness. No harm shall cling to us or this place. Yolanda said. The group exchanges glances with each other. Emmy wonders if the whistles will stop now. She hopes so. Jonathan places his hand on her knee, a gentle yet deliberate touch that sends a nice shiver down her spine. He reaches for the water bottle on the ground. After taking a long sip, he sets the bottle down but lets his hand linger on her knee. Emmy feels a rush of warmth spread through her body, her heart beating a little faster. The sensation of his touch is electrifying, a silent connection between them that speaks volumes. She silently hopes he never moves his hand, relishing the comfort and intimacy of the moment. The world around them fades away, the sounds of the trees and the murmur of the wind becoming mere background noise to the quiet intensity between them. A huge bang echoes, sending a shockwave of surprise and fear through the group. One of the stones in the fire has exploded, scattering fragments and sending ashes dancing into the dark sky. Most gasp, eyes wide with shock and curiosity, as the sudden noise disrupts the uneasy tranquility. Everyone exchanges glances, wondering whose stone it was that shattered and what it signifies in Yolanda's cryptic language. Whispers ripple through the group, questions hanging in the air. Is someone cursed now because their stone didn't burn properly? It's fine, the stone burned long enough to give protection, Yolanda said. Emmy feels her pulse quicken, her heart pounding in her chest. She can't deal with any more of this relentless parade of events and ominous signs. She needs a break. She leans closer to Jonathan. I have wine and snacks in my tent, Emmy said, her voice a hopeful whisper. It's a date, Jonathan replied with a smile, taking her hand as they both stood up. Relief washed over Emmy, but it is short-lived. Dennis takes a deep breath. I want to cleanse one more thing. Is that okay? He asked, looking at Yolanda. Of course it is, she replied, her tone encouraging. Jonathan sighs and gently pulls on Emmy's hand, guiding her to sit back down. Emmy feels a wave of frustration through her body. They were so close, almost escaping. She glances at him, who simply shrugs, clearly sharing her reluctance. It seems like they are the only ones eager to leave. Yolanda hands Dennis a stone and a small incense stick. As you know, our mom was murdered, but before that happened, Mom and I were supposed to go on this hike together, but she apparently canceled it with Yolanda, but not with me. She didn't have enough time to tell me. The evening she was murdered she called me, but I didn't answer. I was busy, so she left a voicemail. Oh no, Emmy thinks, and dread settles in her stomach. Is he going to play it, for the group? She felt a wave of panic. It was their mom's final words. It's so intimate. Emmy didn't want anyone else to hear it, to share their grief. But she couldn't protest. She knew her little brother was near the edge of a breakdown, his emotions a fragile dam ready to burst. So, Emmy remains quiet, her heart heavy with apprehension, bracing herself for what was to come. Did they ever catch the murderer? Sandra asked. No, the police don't even believe she was murdered. They claim it was a suicide, but that doesn't make any sense. Dennis replied. He is steadfast in his belief that their mom was murdered. Emmy isn't sure, William is uncertain too. The police claim suicide, but Emmy leans toward believing that their mom was actually murdered. It's either a very strange suicide or an unsolved mysterious murder. I'd like to play the voicemail, Dennis said. He takes out his phone and starts the message.
Hi there, sweetheart, it's Mom. We need to talk about the hike. Something has happened. Oh wait, I hear someone at the door. I must check. It could be Walter. He has been missing for a week. I will tell you all about it later. Just hold on, and let me check. Walter, where have you been? The police is looking for you. What are you doing? Stop it! Help!
Everyone sits in shock. It's a horrifying message to listen to. Mom dies as the message is being recorded. You can clearly hear that she's being murdered, but still, the police say it's suicide, Dennis said. Who's this Walter? Sandra asked. A childhood friend of Mom's. He was reported missing about a week before my mom was murdered, Dennis answered. Jonathan raises his hand, the one wrapped in a bandage. I don't get it. You can clearly hear that she's being murdered, and it's obvious who killed her. It's that Walter guy, Jonathan said. That's the thing. Walter was found dead the day after, Dennis said. So what? Jonathan said. Dennis clears his throat. He takes a deep breath. It couldn't have been Walter. He had been dead for over a week when they found him.